What is going on, Colts Nation? And welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Cody and Derek, back for another episode. And today we are talking about the Colts' third preseason game. And in this episode, guys, we are going to just talk about some players that we are watching in this matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, before we get into some of these players, I want to just say that the Colts have said that the starters will play the entire first half. So with that being said, we're going to get a little bit more of a better look at the starters, Colts starters versus Bucs starters, because Todd Bowles has said the same thing, right? So that's great to see. We're going to see a lot of that, and hope you guys will join Derek on Saturday night as we do the play-by-play and also playback. If you guys haven't done that yet, be sure to get signed up. There is a link in the description for that. But without further ado, let's get into it, guys. Let's talk about the first guy that we want to really get a good look at, and that's Alec Pierce, the second-round pick this year in this year's draft. You know, kind of started out, had some moments where he flashed, but seems like recently, Derek, he's been starting to put it together a little bit more, and people have started to notice. Talk to me about your thoughts on Alec Pierce and what you want to see from him here in week number 3 of the preseason.
Well, I definitely want to see him get more involved in this game. We saw obviously the starters, and who knows, maybe Alec Pierce plays for a little more than a half, because he said at least a half, right? I mean, there's some starters that will play for a half, some starters that might play for a little more than a half, maybe some guys that they want to see a little bit more from, because obviously you're not going to have much of practices the next 2 weeks after that. So you're looking for something to be able to provide you some more, basically some criticism on some of these guys' play. But Alec Pierce, again, everyone's raving about him. Everyone's saying how good he is, how he's light years ahead of where Pittman was at this point in his rookie year. So it's kind of in that situation where, I want to see Alec Pierce continue to do more, right? We saw a couple times in the Lions game that he looked good. Some of the reps that he had were really good. We just didn't see him get involved a lot because, he only played for the first couple drives and then, they take him out, right? So, I mean, there's not much to really go off of that. You see a lot more from players when you get a half in, sometimes even longer, because then you start to see more of what stands out. You see more of those reps. So, I want to see Alec Pierce continue to do more, right? I want to see him get those quality reps. Want to see if he can stretch the field vertically like what we've been seeing in practice. I want to see him continue to do these drag routes that the Colts are continuously using their slot guys for. It worked well in the second preseason game for Alec Pierce to get him open on a few times. So I'd like to see more of that. I just want to continue to see Alec Pierce progress and where we think his progress is going.
Right. And Reggie Wayne has said, his big message to Alec Pierce this entire time was just like, you're not going to be perfect, right? And so just continue to be better, continue to improve every day. And it seems like that's exactly what Alec Pierce has taken to heart. And he has just, done that. He just has decided, you know what? I am going to do that. I'm just going to get better every day. I don't have to be this polished, number one receiver right away. And I think that's really helped his mindset. And I'm sure it's been great to have Reggie in his ear a lot and stuff. So really excited to see if he can continue to build off of some strong performances we've seen and just continue to, kind of ascend into that number 2 wide receiver position, because there's been a lot of talk, a lot of question marks, and probably will make the Colts feel a whole lot better if he looks good again on Saturday. All right, to the right guard position, we got to talk about Danny Pinter because, it's weird, Derek. I mean, we talked about it a little bit a couple episodes ago, but Danny Pinter coming in, I think a lot of us thought, oh, he's going to be fine. We don't have to worry about Danny Pinter at right guard because of how well he played last year when he filled in for Ryan Kelly at center. But, so far it hasn't been necessarily like alarming. Like it hasn't been like he's just been outright terrible, but it hasn't been like overly impressed with Danny Pinter so far. And I think there are now some question marks like, okay, like, is he just more of a better, backup center, or is he better at center? Or is he the long-term piece at right guard? Give me your thoughts on what you want to see from the Colts right guard.
Well, I mean, the funny part is when it comes to this game, Danny Pinter's going to primarily be the center because Ryan Kelly, who tested positive for COVID this morning, is no longer going to be in the mix of anything. So he's not going to be playing. So Danny Pinter is going to end up taking the center position, while Will Fries is probably going to end up being your right guard, right? But you want to see Danny Pinter improve a little more. And when you're playing against this Tampa Bay front, right? Like, this Tampa Bay front is really strong, and we know that for the first half they're going to at least play their starters. So they're going mano a mano. They got some real good defensive linemen there, and it is no easy task going up against this team who notoriously over the last 3 years has been the best rushing defense of all the NFL. And you're going out here and you're going to be hoping to improve on that. And, we've been saying it this whole time that, the Colts just don't look like the same team moving teams forward anymore, like what they used to. It kind of looks weird right now. Not sure if that's just, because we've seen the Colts do this before, right? We've seen where they struggle in the first couple weeks of the season to really get it going. And then like when they hit their groove, then all of a sudden they look elite, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of weird how we've seen that happen. So I'm not entirely concerned with if they start off slow, but I would like to see more out of Danny Pinter because, he's getting into a situation here where he's about to be a starter. And like you said, he hasn't been horrific, but he hasn't been as consistently good as what we would have liked for him to be. There's still issues with, that right side of that offensive line moving people. So, and it kind of somewhat goes into the hands of Danny Pinter, and Pinter reportedly getting blown up a couple times in the joint practices against the Lions. So, things like that can be a little concerning. So, I mean, if you're wanting to see where the guy is at, even if he's not playing his official position in this game, what better way to see it against one of the better run stopping teams in all the NFL, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to have to play against some really, really, really good defensive linemen in the interior. So definitely want to see Danny Pinter have a nice bounce back game here. But you talked about the right guard, the guy who will probably be playing right guard in this game, Will Fries, who I think has looked really, really good in the 2 preseason games. Again, not against the ones, but given where he was taken last year and kind of what we've seen from him this year, it's definitely encouraging with where Will Fries is right now as a guard. What do you want to see though? If he's, like you mentioned, he's probably going to get more run with the one. So what do you want to see out of him?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely would be interesting to see, what he's going to look like in this game. Cause I mean, I think we can all say that like Fries has been one of the more consistent offensive linemen in all of camp so far. It's actually been really fun to watch is seeing Will Fries continue to just excel at his position and improve, kind of like what we saw in Pinter over this last year, right? Over the past year, we saw Pinter, who we didn't really think highly of, and then he comes in for a couple plays when guys are out for a couple weeks and he starts thriving, right? And I feel like that's what we're seeing now with Will Fries. And I think it's kind of been in that situation where Ballard and his coaching staff really believes in Will Fries at this moment because they've been hesitant to really get any more interior offensive line help. And I think they feel so confident in Will Fry's ability to step in at either guard spot. I don't think they're entirely worried about, what could happen after that. But Will Fries, I mean, talk about a guy that's been on a mission. I mean, I know Zach Hicks from the Locked On Colts podcast definitely loved Will Fries, that draft selection when he got drafted. He thought he was actually going to go in the 4th round, and Will Fries ended up being a 7th round pick. So again, another quality late round draft pick that Ballard is able to sneak out of there. I'm really excited to see if he rises to the occasion because for the same thing as Pinter, you're going up against some really good defensive linemen this weekend. And that will be a very good test for Will Fries because I don't think we've really seen Will Fries go up against elite defensive linemen before, but you're going up against some really solid boys here. And, it's going to be an interesting challenge to see how well he performs.
Now, here's my question. And I've asked this before, and maybe it's a little bit too premature. But what if Will Fries plays excellent against Tampa Bay? He's moving people, he's protecting well, and Danny Pinter struggles. Could we see potentially a little bit of competition at right guard? Maybe some more splitting time.
I've seen that. I've thought about that in the back of my head. I've it's been in the back of my head. Like you said, it's premature. I don't really know if I want to get into that, but you're right. Like if Danny Pinter this season early on is really struggling, and you think Will Fries might actually be better at that spot, it might just be better to put Will Fries there at right guard and then have Danny Pinter in the back on the bench and say, first offensive lineman that goes out on the interior, Danny Pinter's the first name called, right? I mean, that has definitely entered my mind as a possibility, but I'm still thinking that's a little premature, like you said.
Right. Yeah. Not. It wouldn't be like if he plays well and Pinter is not playing well in this game, like they make the switch right away. But maybe that gets the wheels turning a little bit for the offensive line coach and for Frank Reich and all those guys to be like, hey, maybe we need to consider Will Fries a little bit more seriously for his starting guard position. But I'll be intrigued to see how both those players play for sure.
What's going on, everybody? Today, I'm introducing our new sponsor, HomeField, a premium collegiate apparel brand out of Indianapolis that has incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. HomeField, being a local brand to Indianapolis, is partnering with the Indianapolis Colts to bring you a new collection of Colts apparel. This is HomeField's first NFL collection. They're super excited to be involved with the Indianapolis Colts, and we're excited to help promote their new designs. They have 6 new designs. They have a hooded sweatshirt, crew neck, 2 different tees, joggers, and a jacket. Now, if I say so myself, I'm definitely going to be rocking the sweatshirt and the joggers, guys, because they look extremely comfortable, and I'm definitely going to need them for the fall and winter season. It's the perfect collection to have for you guys to kick off the NFL season. It is going to be launching August 27th at 12 p.m. Eastern. So be on the lookout for it. And if this is already passed, make sure to go check out the HomeField site and be able to get yours today. New customers can get 15% off their first purchase from HomeField with the code BRINGTHEJUICE at checkout at homefieldapparel.com. Make sure to go check out their website, guys, and catch your Colts apparel.
Let's continue. Let's talk more about the defense now. A couple different positions, a couple different players we want to talk about. First is Sterling Weatherford, the backup linebacker, undrafted guy, has played really, really well as of recent. He's had some strong practices. He had a strong week 2 preseason against the Lions. So he's continuing to make a case for himself to potentially, make this final 53-man roster. What do you need to see from him?
I just want to see him continue to do what we've been seeing. He's been really solid in coverage. He's been around in the middle of the field. He makes tackles. I want to see him continue to do that because right now he's the leader on the back end of this roster when it comes to the linebacker position. He seems to be the front runner for taking that last spot. And I think that if we can see a little bit more from him, I really want to see him continue to do what he's doing, especially in coverage, because we have been saying it for a while outside of somebody like Shaquille Leonard. Bobby is trying to get to that point, and I think he's getting better. But even Bobby sometimes has a few issues in coverage. And we know Zaire definitely is not a coverage linebacker, at least what we have seen in the past. So, finding somebody like Weatherford who seems to be better in coverage, especially in the middle of that field, might actually be something that the Colts really need. And like we said, JoJo Doman, Weatherford, Forrest Ryan, we got a couple guys here that are really trying to edge out the end of this roster. And Weatherford seems to be the front runner, but he needs to continue to do what he's doing if he wants to stay in that race.
Absolutely. And I don't know if Doman's going to play in this game, but if he is, same case would be for him as well. They just need to show out again. That's just all I need to see from them, I think. And then I'll feel more confident about, which guy I would say when we make our final 53-man predictions, who's going to make it, because, cuts are coming up here early next week. So this is the last impression for some of these guys that are right there on the roster bubble, I think. So really looking forward to seeing how he plays. And then before we get to kind of the last starter, I wanted to talk about, since we're talking about some of the guys in the roster bubble, talk about some of those backup corners, right? The guys that are going for that number 5 corner position. We obviously know Marvell Tell. He's been with the team a couple years. We know Dallas Flowers as well, an undrafted guy. And then we know Tony Brown, who had a really nice week too, I believe, from what everybody said and what I've seen. So a couple different guys here that are going for that number 5 corner position. What do you need to see from one of these guys here to kind of solidify that and kind of lock that down?
Well, I mean, we've seen these guys continue to make tackles, right? We saw both of them make an interception. I think it's just one of these guys is one play away from making that stance to where they deserve it over the other, right? We're talking primarily to Dallas Flowers and Tony Brown. So, in that situation, we've seen Dallas Flowers get an interception. We saw Tony Brown get an interception. We've seen both of them make tackles in the open field and look good at doing it. At the end of the day, I think one big play is all that it's going to take for one of these guys to prove that they belong on the back end of this roster. Because I don't know if Marvell Tell is involved in it right now. I would think he is because, people are saying that, Marvell Tell's been in the system a little longer. He's a guy that, definitely has some talent. But at the end of the day, I just think Dallas Flowers and Tony Brown look a little bit more polished right now than Marvell Tell. So too early to tell right now, but we will see on this game, and we'll see if any one of them rises to the occasion and makes a couple big plays.
Yep. Then the last guy we want to talk about is the obvious Nick Cross, who's looked really, really good for the Colts. Really encouraged by him. I think he's making a strong case, Derek, for just locking down that strong safety position. And I personally feel like if he has another nice performance, that position is his to lose this year. What are your thoughts on what you want to see from Nick Cross in this game?
Well, I want to see more of that potential that gets me the rookie defensive player of the year talk going on. That's what I want to see. But I mean, we have seen some elements that Nick Cross is just ahead of his time. Even as young as he is and for as raw as he can be right now, I mean, we have seen him continuously dominate these guys in the 2s and 3s. We've seen him do it. I mean, nobody is able to hold Nick Cross down right now. So I want to see him go up against starters. I want to see him get up against some real competition. And he's going against probably the toughest challenge he'll have all year long. And that's going against Tom Brady, right? Like Tom Brady, the undisputed GOAT of all time, one of the smartest quarterbacks that we've ever seen in the NFL. And he just knows how to pick people apart, right? And what a better way to test your skills, both mentally and physically, than going up against somebody that knows how to expose weaknesses. We will see just how developed Nick Cross is in this game by just simply sitting back and watching to see if he gets burnt on some plays or if he actually makes an interception here or there. That's what's fun about this. Because like we said, we've seen him dominate the 2s and 3s. Now let's see him go up against some real competition with some real good wide receivers, a really good quarterback. And for that first half, playing like it's almost a real game. Obviously, both offenses are still going to be somewhat vanilla because nobody wants to show what they have. But still, to be able to see him go up against regular competition, like what he would see in the regular season, that's what's going to be fun about it.
That's going to be so invaluable for both teams, I think, just to get kind of a half of a full game, of a real football game. So yeah, definitely will be good for Nick Cross and his development, as well as guys like Alec Pierce as well. There's some of these young guys, I think it's going to be a really, really good test for them. And honestly, probably a good barometer for the Colts, because cuts are coming. There's probably going to be some moves the Colts are going to make. What are some positions that they feel good about, like wide receiver potentially, or, maybe they feel like they need to add a move at a position, So all that to say, really excited about some of these matchups and this game in particular for the Colts and just how it's going to get them, I think, mentally prepared for the regular season and physically prepared as well. So, guys, let us know your thoughts overall on some of these players that we're watching. Are there any other players that maybe you're watching in this game that we didn't mention? Obviously, I want to throw in Matt Hawk, the new Colts punter. I just want to see him out there, see what we got in him. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think he'll be fine, but I just want to see him out there and just see what he does.
Yeah.
An honorable mention there goes to Matt Hawk, newest Indianapolis Colts punter. But other than that, guys, let us know if there's any other players that, like I mentioned, that you wanted to see as well. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Take care. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And guys, game day is on Saturday. So like I mentioned at the top of the video, Derek is going to be doing some play-by-play on YouTube and also over on Playback. And if you're like, what the heck is Playback? Basically, it's like we're going to be watching the game, and Derek's going to be giving some live commentary to the game, just like he does on YouTube. But the only difference will be we'll actually be watching the game together. So if you guys have a TV provider, go check out the link in the description and go enter your TV provider. And I think you go, Derek, like an hour before the game, you go on live. So everybody be sure to go do that. And when you guys do that, it actually supports us because, however many we have, the average we have, we get paid a certain amount for that by Blue Wire. So shout out to Blue Wire as well for all the awesome stuff they've been able to do and allow us to do more of this stuff. But be sure to check that out, guys. And also, if you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're listening, be sure to, like this video if it's a video, or give us 5 stars on, wherever you're listening from, or whatever you want to do. We'd love for you to leave us a positive review. Really appreciate it as always. And as always, guys, go Colts.